Thank you. Good morning. This is House Government Operations and Military Affairs on Thursday morning, May 7th. And we're here to talk about H588, the act relating to professions and occupations regulated by the Office of Professional Regulation. And we are going to hear from the bill sponsor, who I believe reported it in the Senate. Welcome, Senator.
Senator Tanya Vyhovsky, for the record. I have not reported it in the Senate yet because it is in Senate Appropriations and not yet made it to the floor.
Thank you for that clarification.
Yes, and the changes that the Senate made are fairly minimal. The first change is in Section 3, and it puts some time limits around how long a license holder has to sort of get the full Vermont credential. So you had already allowed OPR to rescind the license if the person hadn't done that. We really just clarified the time frame for that. The next change is in Section 5, and it gives the director of OPR the discretion to adopt rules permitting a licensee to enter into a program serving as essentially what this does. You already did it. We added a little clarification that in an instance when someone's entering into the treatment program, that's at the discretion of the director. Again, largely just clarifying language. In the next sections 8 through 10, this is about the accountants, the CPA licensure. And we basically in all the sections, we removed the language requiring that they be of good character. It's fairly archaic language that is not really used. So we just struck that in all the sections. The next change, and this is I think the most substantive change, is in sections 14A through 14C relating to pharmacists and their ability to test to treat. So as you had sent us the bill, it allowed pharmacists to test and then treat for COVID, influenza, and streptococcal pharyngitis, or strep. What we added to it was the ability to test for HIV and provide PrEP or PEP, which is either pre-exposure prophylactic treatment or post-exposure prophylactic treatment. So this would allow, it's a little bit different in that with COVID, influenza, or strep, you would test positive and then get treatment. In this instance, you would test negative and then get prophylactic treatment to prevent you from getting the illness. And it, again, goes along with our sort of rural health expansion and the need to provide quick treatment in these instances. And so it just adds that provision of allowing pharmacists to do the test and provide the treatment. Yeah, me too. I thought
the military does that.
Yeah.
In combat zones. I was covered in blood from an incident and they tested me, but then gave me prophylactic.
Exactly. And you know the importance of getting
Yes.
access to that quite quickly. And I'm sure many of us have had the experience of trying to get in to see like our primary care physician and having it take quite a while. And, you know, our emergency departments are really overstressed. So this was a way to really alleviate the stress on the system and make sure people have access to that really critical treatment.
Thank you. And thanks for the real world example, Rep. Coffin.
Yeah.
It's important.
And then in section 14B and 14C, we did a little bit of definition clarification of what is a pharmacy technician, what is an authorized test. And that, section 18A, we did some rearranging of the language. We didn't create, so it is some fee language. And I want to be clear, we did not create any new fees. We just sort of moved things around. And then in part 11, the Board of Medical Practice, we allowed, within the powers and duties of the Board of Medical Practice, we are allowing the board to conduct criminal background checks for professions that would need a criminal background check. Currently, the board can't do that, and that is delaying the ability of certain professions to sort of do their work. And so we gave them that allowance. And that is really it. So our changes were fairly minimal. And many were technical in nature, with the exception of sort of the two substantive pieces being the test to treat for HIV and the criminal background checks for the Board of Medical Practice.
Thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions for this bill reporter? Coffee?
Just one on part 3, dentists.
Dentists. Okay, let me get there. Yes.
And I see the highlighted Vermont licensed dentist.
Yes, so that is a clarification. So that if you recall the dentist section, this is for our very exciting new dental school collaboration.
Mhm.
So it will allow a limited academic dentist license for people who are teaching at that and providing care at that dental school. This will allow them to practice under the license or under the full supervision of a licensed dentist. This clarifies that it's a Vermont licensed dentist.
Oh.
So this just clarifies that when they're practicing, they do need to be practicing under the supervision of someone who is licensed in the state of Vermont.
Any additional questions? Okay, thank you very much for joining us.
Yes, of course. Thank you. Enjoy your day.
Yes, you as well.
The sun has come out, which is lovely.
Next, we have council to walk us through those changes. Morning, Tim.
Thank you for having me in again. Record, my name is Tim Dunn, Legislative Counsel. Senator Pahosky did a wonderful job of getting it high level, basically kind of following her through the overview of the bill, which I prepared, and all updates from the as passed by the House version are indicated in red text, just so they kind of jump out at the reader. Let's see, the overview doesn't really provide too much more detail than what Senator Pahosky just went into. So I'm happy to either revisit that or answer specific questions or read through the specific language, which is highlighted in the strike all amendment that came over from the government Senate Sister Committee on Government Operations. That's draft 4.1. This is what was adopted by the Senate overall, and those contain block highlights to show everybody versus red text. So depending on what the committee would prefer, happy to go along with that. That's level of detail.
You have a preference?
Fine with that. Overview.
Okay. Sounds good. Then overview it is.
So, and at any point, anybody would like me to have any particular language, happy to do so when the bill does. So the first change we have is to the rescission process. Just to remind the committee, this will be a new process that will enable OPR to rescind or kind of snap back a license under certain conditions, being if the license was issued because of administrative mistake or potentially clerical error, or if application fees weren't paid in a timely way, or what was really the kind of implosion or dissolution of a compact. This adds more particularity to the compact element of it. And so now we have, if a compact license or privilege holder loses the credential, either because of dissolving of that compact or something in base in that home state, they will have 30 days in which to obtain a Vermont license or lose the capacity to practice in the state. That's really that. Then also there's a minor change to some of the timelines involved in the kind of committee will remember there's two paths in the rescission based on how long the license holder has held that license. So if it's less than 30 days, you're afforded a certain amount of due process. If it's more than 30 days, there's more involved process there. Both again have a appeal to that. However, in the first, that is a license that's active for less than 30 days, this committee had it that the review decision would be made within, I think, 30 days, and this is after 40 days. So providing parties approximately 10 more days to have a decision there. The next amendment we'll see this is in section 5 of the bill, and this had to do with the unprofessional conduct statute, that is 3 VSA 129A. This is the generalized one in Title III that apply to all regulated professions through OPR. Professions regulated by OPR, that is. And so this section was amended to provide the OPR director to adopt rules and essentially set up like a diversion or alternative to disciplinary process in events of substance use disorders or other professional practice issues. And that was what came out of this committee. It's been rephrased so that the rules will be adopted in a manner so that it will be up to the director's discretion when to allow individuals to enter such a diversionary program versus just an automatic, which was how the language was read, essentially coming out of this committee. So then we move on out of the general powers of OPR into the profession-specific amendments, and this is where we transfer from Title III to Title 26, which has those specific profession laws. Part, let's see, 2 of this bill, again, this is sections 8, 10, have to do with accountants or CPAs. And the change of note here is that there is a removal of all references to applicants for licensure to be of good character. And I'll defer to OPR as to exactly why they support that change, but this will just scrub and remove not only that requirement, but also any references to it in across actually it's like 2 different sections. So then we turn to dentists, and this again is in sections 11 and 12, and has to do with that new to be offered limited academic dentist license. And it's just minor change to the language as it left this committee. The committee will call that, let's see, they'll create a new formal license for teaching an accredited dental program, and that licensed individual will necessarily be under the general supervision of a fully Vermont licensed dentist versus just a licensed dentist. And then there are other eligibility requirements as well. Those haven't changed. And then we turn.
Question for
Yes.
Matt Waterfall.
Thank you. I am, so the way it was previously written, it could have been a dentist from New Hampshire just coming over and training people.
Suppose so.
Or maybe more likely from Michigan, where Detroit Mercy is headquartered.
Yes,
That
but
would have come
yes,
taught at
specifically.
the school.
Yes, I just couldn't remember what state they were coming from, so I said New Hampshire.
Good question, though. I wonder if that will limit the number of educators who are going to be teaching in this new school that we're creating, but we'll see how that goes.
I wonder if they took any testimony about that.
Yeah,
I wish we had a senator, if he's still here.
however, we might be able to ask OPR. some
Yeah,
point.
right.
Would you like to respond now to that
Sure, Jennifer
question?
Poland,
Thank
Director of
you.
the Office of Professional Regulation. So because there's a dental clinic that's gonna be run out of this school, it's really important that whoever's doing the supervision in that of other like dental students within that clinic be licensed in the state of Vermont. That gives us jurisdiction over complaints, over their practice and whatnot. And really, they have to be licensed in Vermont to practice.
And that
What
makes
yeah.
sense, and I'm thinking now that probably we will have some kind of arrangement with Michigan that dentists who are licensed to be educators and practice in Michigan will have a simpler process to get a license in Vermont or not?
That's a great question. I mean, I think all of this national examinations and all of that are pretty standardized. So I don't think it would be a problem for Michigan licensed dentists to get what they need in Vermont to practice.
Great, thank you very much for stepping in and answering that. And Tim, if you want to continue.
Sure. So now we'll turn to the pharmacy provisions here, that is sections 14A through C. And these sections together will allow pharmacists and now pharmacy technicians to test for influenza, strep, HIV, in addition to the existing law, which is for COVID. And also these sections will, provide for pharmacists to prescribe for treatments of those diseases as well. So 14A, which will amend 26 VSA 2023, will enable pharmacists to prescribe, order, or administer in a manner consistent with valid state protocols, tests, and subsequent drug treatments for COVID-19, influenza, streptococcal pharyngitis, and human immunodeficiency virus, that's HIV, including those for pre-exposure and for post-exposure prophylaxis. So the HIV language at the end of the sentence, that's what's been introduced by Seneca Moms.
I'll ask you, Tim, but I'm not sure if you're the one to answer this question, but do you know that if an individual is at the pharmacy and tests positive for HIV, if the pharmacist or tech will be able to prescribe treatment for the actual disease, or is this just for pre and post exposure because it says HIV, including those for pre and post exposure?
And I'll defer to OPR as to how it will be effectuated on the ground
Thank
in a
you.
practical matter.
Would you mind answering that?
I wouldn't mind at all. I mean,
Yeah.
actually, it's a good opportunity to do a little bit of what Senator Bohowski said. The statute does not include testing. So this is for people who may have been exposed to HIV, who are going to a pharmacy to get HIV prophylaxis. It doesn't include testing. It's just treat. So in other words, there are medications that can be particularly for post-exposure. There are medications that if they are quickly administered, they have, a higher chance of success. And I'm a little out of my depth here with the intricacies of HIV, PrEP, and PrEP, but there's a timing component. So if someone goes to a pharmacy and they've had, sexual contact with an HIV drug user, for example, it enables them to get that HIV post-exposure prophylaxis immediately, instead of having to wait for a primary care appointment.
I understand that, I guess, so it's based on the individual's self-attestation. They would go to the pharmacy and say, I've had exposure, I need,
Potential exposure, yeah, that's right.
and also the pre-exposure is I may have.
Yes. That's right. And there's nothing that prevents that.
Testing.
That's right. And there's nothing that prevents, particularly in the pre-exposure scenario, like someone can certainly, make an appointment with their provider and say, I have a partner, whatever their situation is. But the post-exposure with the timing component, I think was of more concern. And again, this is pursuant to a state protocol that's approved by, that the Board of Pharmacy works with the Vermont Department of Health Commissioner to come up with. There are other states that have, protocols for this kind of treatment. So.
Thank you. Any other questions for either Tim
And-
or, Tim, you'd like to add something?
Just quickly that there's a slight inaccuracy in my overview about
That's what I
test
was-
continuum. So I'll update that.
That's okay, thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that. And Rep. Coffin, you had a question for,
I'm not sure who this would go to because it's, because where it says tests and subsequent drug treatment for COVID-19, influenza, strep, and human. So the way this reads, it could say that the pharmacist could do the test as well and send it out. That's what I'm confused about.
If you're looking at the overview, Tim just said he needs to correct that.
Okay.
No, that's a
That's the part. he
indeed
needs.
an error, and so I'll restructure that sentence for clarity.
But thank you for pointing that out. Okay,
Let's see, then we have similar amendments in section 14B, which will modify the definition of pharmacy technician, so they'll include those who perform tests for influenza, streptococcal pharyngitis, and other authorized tests in compliance with, in accordance with section 26 VSA 2042A, that is pharmacy technician qualified registration. Then we go on in 14C to amend that very mentioned statute there, is particularly subdivisions E and F, so that pharmacy technicians may perform authorized tests rather than only COVID-19 tests in accordance, again, with state protocols and standing orders from the Commissioner of Health. So then we turn to provisions having to do with massage therapists, body workers, touch professionals. Although it's better to describe these as just some kind of housekeeping changes that these statutes are being changed in the batch that is updating the massage therapist statutes. However, these are just the kind of movement of fees, again, not to create new fees, but they're moving from subdivision B to subdivision A in that fee statute that is 3 VSA 125. The effect is really to clarify that these fees that are being moved will now apply to all board professions and advisory professions rather than only advisory professions. So right there, 4. And just a reminder for the committee, a board profession is one a board, usually comprised of professional peers and members of the public, generally regulates a profession versus an advisor profession, which is one that has appointed advisors who generally assist the director of OPR in regulating the profession. So if you refer to the language of the bill, it'll look like there's a bunch of things struck through, and a bunch of new language, but that's actually on close examination. The exact same language is struck one place, added to another. We move to section 19A, having to do with board practice. And this will amend 26 VSA 1353, its powers and duties of the board, so that the board can conduct criminal background checks for certain professions. And this section has been amended to be more similar to the criminal background provisions in OPR. Sorry, there's 4 OPR that are found in 3 VSA 123J. So although the board actually does have powers to this effect already, it reorganizes it to very much for consistency across these statutes. And then we go to effective dates, which really have been changed to insert that section 19, that is that change to the board practice powers, that will take effect on passage with many other provisions of the bill. Anybody like to look at any of the particular language of any of those sections I just went through, or have any questions about those? Okay. Well,
don't have anybody else on our agenda, and we do have about 20 minutes. Not to put you on the spot, but did you want to come up and say anything about this version of the bill?
Again, Jen Cole from the Office of Professional Regulation. I would just say that we support this version of the bill and we're happy to answer any questions, but I mean, nothing jumps out to mind that's really controversial.
Okay, thank you. And Rep. Nugent, do you have comments or questions?
The only thing I was gonna say is that I see that the OPR person colon is on the agenda now.
Okay, So I did not refresh, but that's because she spoke
Yeah.
in committee. It's not that we're actually gonna have her sit in the witness chair and make a statement. Although she's more than welcome to if she wants to. With that, we have until 10:15.
Great.
So we will, oh, sorry, Rep. Boyden?
Do we need to take our straw poll?
Not at the moment because it has not passed the Senate yet. It's in Senate approps. It's been through Senate Finance and Senate GovOps. So it has not passed the Senate yet and actually come to the House. And that's probably a good thing because I'm feeling like I might need to hear a little bit more. So, we'll just go with that. And Nick, you can take us. Oh, sorry, Rep. Nugent.
Just wondering what the votes were out of the committees that it's been through so far.
Good question. Council, do you know the votes? Okay, we can look that up on the records of action and.
700.
Oh, thank you. And that was Senate.
Finance.
Finance.
It's good to finance as well.
Yes, so GovOps is a 5-member committee. So I'm not sure how that came out. Thank you.
I will look it up. 500.
500. Thank you very much. Okay, with that, Nick,
I think there's other